This is Kevin F. Pope with a Pope's Perspective, and my spoiler review for Incredibles 2. Now, in my regular review, I mentioned there was something in the poster that I was wondering if they were going to play off of in the film. And they actually did. That payoff is the raccoon, okay? In the poster, one of the posters has Jack Jack shooting his laser eyes at a raccoon. And I'm like, huh, I wonder if that's going to play something in the film. Like, why would they have this raccoon in there? Scene where Mr. Incredible is falling asleep and Jack Jack is just sitting in front of the TV, and there's this movie or something that comes on with cops and robbers, and Jack Jack sees that, and he sees that the robber has a bandana on, and he looks at the raccoon, and it looks like he's got a bandana on, and then he goes out after the raccoon, and I was laughing like crazy during that scene. It was so much fun, it was hysterical, and it was also a great way to showcase Jack Jack's multiple powers, his unpredictability. We did get that in Jack Jack Attack, which is an awesome short, but I loved this part with the raccoon. It was just a hoot, and if they ever do anything more with Incredibles or Jack Jack, I would love to see more with Jack Jack and that raccoon. Awesome. I just thought that was great. And I also mentioned that there was a little nitpick I had in the film, and the nitpick I have is dealing with the villain. Disney is, Pixar's done it too, and Pixar's still doing it with the surprise villain. This is the villain. And I'm sick of that trend, and we got it again in Incredibles 2. I was hoping we wouldn't, and we did. So it worked in the story. I mean, everything within the story. Brad Bird said when writing the script for the film, he had to make some revisions and figuring out the villain, and he had to find the villain that worked with everything with the family. Okay, so it had to be a villain that worked around the plot, around the story, around the family, and that's where the story really is. So I will give them a leeway there, because the stuff for the family is the best parts of this film. So if that's where they came to, it's like, okay, this is the villain that works with the stuff with the family. Okay, I'm sick of this trend of surprise villain. Syndrome was such a good villain in the first film. They had that setup at the beginning of the film, and then he comes back, and it's like, whoa, this guy, like Mr. Incredible, really messed up, and now this guy's a villain because of it. Like, there was like, it was such, Syndrome is just one of the best, as I mentioned in my best Pixar films. Syndrome is one of the best Pixar villains. Such a great villain. So I was let down with the villain in this one. I was predictable, like, oh, okay, well, I'm not thinking that the one guy that is hiring Elastigirl to go out to rejuvenate the superheroes and all of that, I'm not thinking that he's going to be the villain, but I got a pretty good idea that, and as the film went around, I'm like, okay, she's probably, his tech sister is probably, yep, it's her, of course. So it is a little bit of a disappointment in that regard, but the film overall is not a disappointment, and I thought they just built up stuff in, I thought they did a good job with the advertising, because they didn't really give too much away in the advertising. We got more of the Underminer. Film started right where it left off. We get to see the battle with the Underminer, and then they don't catch the Underminer. The Underminer got away. Interesting. You know, it actually parallels with the first film, because in the first film, Mr. Incredible doesn't catch Bon Voyage either. Bon Voyage gets away. And once again, the Underminer got away. So I really actually think that actually worked. And then it played in with the plot, with the film, like, oh, well, maybe it's like, you know, superheroes are still illegals, and this is why, and blah, 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 blah. So it did play into the film in that regard. And as I said in my regular review, I loved this film so much. Even with my minor complaint, this film is so good and just so great. And I also loved the part with Violet, and I was wondering, I'm like, I wonder why Violet's so upset in the trailers. Like, what? It's like, she's definitely an angsty teen or something. Like, she's getting in those teen years, so there's got to be something. And because the guy she likes saw her without her mask and saw that, oh, she's a superhero, they had his mind wiped. And not only did they wipe his mind, they wiped her from his existence. So she's waiting for his date. She's waiting for a date with him. He never shows up. She's upset over it. And then she goes to school and is like, hey, what happened? And he's like, who are you? And then finally she finds out that, oh, they wiped him. It's like, you wiped him from existence? And then Mr. Incredibly calls Rick Dickery. I may say his name wrong. Rick Dickery, he's from the first film. Calls Rick Dickery. And it's like, you know that guy that saw my daughter? You know that guy that that kid that saw Violet without the mask? Like, you took care of that? Yeah, we took care of it. Did you know that you also wiped her from his... You wiped Violet completely from his memory, and there was a date with her? Oh, whoops. And then, of course, Violet's like, oh, I hate superheroes. And it's just, I thought it was a great play. And then you got Flash with the homework and the dad. And then, oh my goodness, Mr. Incredible's car. You knew they were saying, like, okay, so somebody ended up finding Mr. Incredible's car and bid on it and bought it. And Mr. Incredible's like, they bought my car! And then Dash, later in the film, uses the car, uses the remote that the dad still has, gets the car. I mean, it was beautiful. This was such a great film. Fun overall. Incredibles 2. Yep. Yes. Oh, I loved Incredibles 2. I know, there's probably not going to be a third one. I'm not going to go pressure Brad Bird into a third one. It took 14 years, and don't push Brad Bird into it. The reason why the second film was so good is because he finally found the right story. So, let's not pressure Brad Bird into the next sequel, but be so happy that he made a sequel, and that he is a sequel that is awesome. Incredibles 2, thank you very much. This is one of the best films of the year. And that's the Pope's Perspective.